remember this? Do you remember this? This was awesome. I love this. One of my favorite clips.
The actual question is, why not back him during the 2016 primaries if you two are the closest aligned in policy?
So look, I think that our primary, I thought was a good thing, and I thought it was good that Bernie was out there, that Hillary was out there. They were giving two different visions. They were out there through all the states. I thought it put both energy on our side. I'll tell you something else I thought it did. It made me proud to be a Democrat. You know, while the Republicans were doing their clown car thing, you know, with who was going to be voted off the island, and then of course ended up with a reality star as their standard bearer. I was proud of what Democrats were out there talking about. I thought it was the right thing to do. I'm going
to stop her. It made me proud to be a Democrat, one. And on top of making me proud to be a Democrat, I thought it put a ton of energy into our side, into our politics, as opposed to the clown car in the Republican Party. Then why didn't you win? Honestly, why didn't you win if you put that much energy? She thought it was a good thing. Fair enough. Oddly enough, that same Elizabeth Warren, who said the primary was a good thing, is here saying this.
By Donna Brazile, the former acting chair of the Democratic National Committee, that the campaign of Secretary Hillary Clinton was far more influential at the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, than we previously knew. Do you think, though, that what we're learning from Donna Brazile's book suggests that the campaign, that what the Democratic National Committee did, meant this election was rigged?
Yeah, I think it was.
It's a pretty powerful.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
I want you to notice something. There's only silence. Do you think it was rigged? I think it was. And then there's just silence. Nobody says anything. And I would put to you, this is how the silence breaks. This is how it ends.
It's a pretty powerful charge.
Well,
meant this election was rigged.
Yeah, I think it was.
It's a pretty powerful charge.
Well,
the silence gets across the gravity of what's being said. Elizabeth Warren, in one instance, I thought it was a good primary, as opposed to the clown car in the Republican Party. Then she comes out, do you think it was rigged? I think it was. And then there's just silence, because the gravity of what's being said is understood. You're saying, like Donna Brazile said, that this guy was being cheated. This is supposed to be a democratic process that is supposed to be impartial, where we are choosing who is going to go against Trump, win this process, one, but go against Trump, two. And you're saying that this process was cheated. Somebody outright undermined democracy itself. But, of course, we are talking about Elizabeth Warren. And within a day or so, you had this. Warren walks back, claimed that the Democratic primary was rigged. That's awesome. That's just great. So on one video, I have Warren telling Cenk Uygur, I thought this process was awesome between Clinton and Sanders. I thought this process was great in comparison to the clown car on the other side. And then you have another instance of saying they rigged it. Then you have another instance of saying they didn't rig it. Now, what we are talking about and what all of this was based on, I'm just going to read it to you. And you tell me, rational human being. Donna Brazile, head of the Democratic National Committee, writes a book. And in that book, Donna Brazile, A, publishes this to Politico for everyone to read themselves, and B, puts it in her book. I've highlighted certain passages in this that I think are important. Donna Brazile is explaining how Hillary Clinton had complete domination and control over the DNC, going so far as to put the institution on an allowance while simultaneously running in that institution. That's what Elizabeth Warren was talking about when she said, yes, it was rigged. And then the Democratic Party got to her and said, whoa, that's not the line we're towing. And she comes back and says, oh, okay, I don't mean it. It was rigged. So right here, they're talking about the money that Clinton or that the Democratic Party was supposedly getting. I'm just going to read it. That wasn't true, he said. Officials from the Hillary campaign had taken a look at the DNC books. Obama left the party $24 million in debt, $15 million in bank debt, and more than $8 million owed to the vendors after the 2012 campaign. And that he had been paying it off very slowly. Obama's campaign was not scheduled to pay it off until 2016. Hillary for America and the Hillary Victory Fund had taken care of 80% of the remaining debt in 2016, about $10 million, and placed the party on, her words, an allowance. Let's keep going. I'm not going to read it all, just parts. Individuals who maxed out their $2,700 contribution limit to the campaign could write an additional check for $353,400 to the Hillary Victory Fund. That figure represents $10,000 to each of the 32 state parties who were part of the Victory Fund's agreement, $320,000 and $33,000 to the DNC. The money would then be deposited in the states first and then transferred shortly to the DNC after that. Money transferred to the DNC shortly after that. Money in the battleground states usually stayed in that state, but all other states funnel that money directly to the DNC, which quickly transferred that money to Brooklyn, Hillary Clinton's headquarters. Donna Brazile. Wait! I said the Victory Fund was supposed to be for whoever was the nominee and the state party races. You're telling me that Hillary has been controlling it since before she got the nomination? Gary said the campaign had to do it or the party would collapse. That was the deal Robbie struck with Debbie, he explained, referring to the campaign manager, Robbie Mook. It was to sustain the DNC. We sent the party nearly $20 million from September until the convention and more to prepare for the election. Debbie Wasserman Schultz used to be Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. Schultz gets to be head of the DNC. Schultz then, for all intents and purposes, turns the DNC over to Clinton. Donna Brazile is like, yeah, she was a bad manager. No, she was corrupt. It was a stitch-up. They knew exactly what they were doing. Let's keep going. There's more. It gets worse. And he was like, wow, how can it get worse? I mean, she has control of the party. Yeah. When I got back from vacation in Martha's Vineyard, oh, how nice, I at last found the document that described it all, the joint fundraising agreement between the DNC, the Hillary Victory Fund, and Hillary for America. The agreement, signed by Amy Darcy, the former CEO of the DNC, and Robbie Mook, and copied to Mark Elias, specified that in exchange for raising money and investing in the DNC, Hillary would control the party's finances, strategy, and all the money raised. Her campaign had the right of refusal to who would be the party's communication director and who would make the final decisions on all other staff. The DNC was also required to consult with the campaign about all other staffing, budgeting, data, analytics, and mailing. I had been wondering why I couldn't write a press release without passing it to Brooklyn, where here is my answer. Tell me again, it was a fair process. Explain to me. Give me words to endow me with some sort of belief that the process of this campaign was fair and impartial and unbiased. Donna Brazile doesn't seem to think so. And at point, when Elizabeth Warren read this, rational human being Elizabeth Warren says, wow, yeah, they rigged this. They rigged it. And then the party gets to her, to which she is firmly under the thumb. And now she has to come out and shame herself in repudiating the thing that she said the day before. Let's keep going. There's more. The fundraising agreement with HFA and the Victory Fund agreement was not illegal, but it sure looked unethical. It's not illegal because the DNC is a corporation. It can do whatever it wants. It could choose its candidates in a back room if it wanted to. At least that's what it said in court. Looks unethical. Also, Donna Brazile. Huh. That's nice. You're still part of the party. I like it. If the fight had been fair, one campaign would not have controlled the party before the votes had decided which one it wanted to lead. This was not a criminal act, but I saw it compromise the party's integrity. No shit. No shit. There is no such thing as a fair process under these circumstances. None. And this doesn't even touch the media, doesn't shut down polling locations, it doesn't shut what took place in Nevada, doesn't take place the weirdness of the exit votes versus the election itself. I mean, after all, you would think if a person goes in, makes a vote, goes out to say, who did you vote for? They would know. And yet the vote totals didn't match up. I discussed the fundraising agreement that the candidates had signed. I told Bernie I had found Hillary Clinton's joint agreement. I explained that the cancer was that she had exerted this control over the party long before she became the nominee. Had I known this, I would have never had accepted the interim chair position. But here we are, only weeks before the election. And Donna Brazil's point ultimately is, I was still going to be a soldier. I wasn't necessarily going to kill the patient just because I found this particular disease. And it hurt me. But I had to move on and write a book and hawk that book to get a lot of cash. They were really pissed off at her. And not just pissed off at her. The problem here is that for the Democratic Party to come out and pretend that they weren't cheating, and this exists, that in bold print says they were, where there's a problem there. There's a problem there. What is Warren talking about? And is she being honest? Rational human being. Honest question. Whether you like Warren or not. Is she being honest? She's talking to Jake Uger. And in an election where at one point she said they rigged it, and another point she said they didn't rig it. And going further, where everybody for their own eyes can read what Donna Brazil put. Is she being honest when she is making this point that I thought it was a great election? The question is no. The answer is no. She's not being honest. Elizabeth Warren has trust issues. I've said this on more than one occasion. You can't trust her. The truth of the matter is that she didn't necessarily say to Cenk Uygur is this. In a secret letter, Senate Democratic women rally behind Hillary Clinton. All of the female Democratic senators, this is 2013, by the way, 3 years, or let's say 2 years and a few months before the election. All of the female, it was a stitch up from the beginning. She was chosen, not voted. There's a difference in those things. The Democratic Party chose her, and Elizabeth Warren toed the line in regards to the party choosing Hillary Clinton. And she didn't say anything about this and kept this secret despite how many times people would ask her, why didn't you support Sanders? Truth of the matter is this. Despite the ideological, supposedly similarities, at the end of the day, she's a creature of the party, and she's towing the party's line. All of the female Democratic senators signed a secret letter to Hillary Clinton early this year encouraging her to run for president in 2016. A letter that includes Senator Elizabeth Warren and other senators mentioned as potential candidates. 2 high-ranking Democratic Senate aides told ABC. Why do you think Hillary Clinton wanted to get Elizabeth Warren's signature signed in blood like this? Because it was assumed, potentially, that Elizabeth Warren would run for president. And if she would have ran for president that year, she would have won. But instead, and despite the ideological differences, she believes it's Clinton's turn. As a person who is firmly entrenched within the party itself, she bowed her head and she gave her allegiance over to Clinton. Clinton trying to ensure that her left flank is not necessarily exposed with a Warren. She gets a signature. Clinton doesn't envision a Bernie Sanders running in this race and somebody who's representing the real left. Warren had already signed over her allegiance in early 2013. All of the questions about whether or not she's going to support Sanders and why didn't she support Sanders and I don't understand and everything else, and every time she answers this question, all of that stuff boils down to a signature in blood, early 2013, that I give field and allegiance to one Hillary Clinton. The strongest position that Warren thought that she could take wasn't to support the person who's supposedly considered her ideological, she's the echo of the person who's, of Sanders. Strongest position she could take was to not support Sanders. And just lied about it after. Again, my issue with Warren is that she can't be trusted. One of my patrons, who also agrees with me about the Warren can't be trusted thing, Michael Williams, shout out, thank you, Michael Williams, for your support, pointed out this. This is not 2016, this is now. Warren and Clinton talk behind the scenes as 2020 race intensifies. Neither camp wants to talk about it, but the two women have recently grown closer. Isn't that nice? So a secret deal in 2013, giving field allegiance to Clinton, and for the most part, again, being a creature of the party, whether you want to talk about Standing Rock. And again, I make this point about the gimmick that she is trying to use to get out of the election, in which case she would take all of the money in the world just like every other Democrat would. But in the primary, because she wants to stand beside Sanders, she wants to be able to say, I'm not taking the corporate cash just like Sanders. They're not a one-to-one. Warren is firmly entrenched within the party. And what this article makes very clear is that Warren has been working to get behind-the-scenes support from the Democratic establishment. And for the most part, she has it. For fuck's sake, has a secret deal with Clinton going back to 2013. And in this particular situation, now, today, right now, at this very moment, she has been working with Hillary Clinton behind the scenes. But she doesn't want you to know about it. And I just don't want you to know about it. Let's talk about superdelegates for the moment. Part of Warren's strategy here is not necessarily to win it outright in the primaries. Part of the strategy is to split the vote. The Democratic establishment has coalesced around Warren. She has Clinton's support. What I would guarantee you is Clinton's support will get her the Democratic establishment support. Warren is a creature of the Democratic establishment, whereas Sanders is considered an existential threat to what it means to be a Democrat under current terms. Warren is not. Warren calls herself a capitalist, and not just calls herself a capitalist for the most part. She has a history, an ignoble history of towing the party line. Warren, did they rig it? Yeah, I think so. Next day, the party gets to her. No, they didn't. Standing Rock, Warren, doesn't come out. Why? Because the party under Obama hasn't come out for it. But the moment Obama comes out, Warren comes out with a statement. Sanders was already there. And in this case, why weren't you supporting Bernie Sanders? And she spends her time lying about it. And the truth of it is, they had already stitched up the support, and she just wasn't going to say anything about it, and just was going to lie about it. If it wasn't for this article, we would not know. And right now, Warren and Clinton are still working in tandem behind the scenes, but they don't want you to know about it. Then the article even makes it plain. Neither camp wants to talk about it, but the two women have recently grown closer. How does that make you feel? Think about it for the moment. How does it make you feel? Intellectually, but emotionally. In 2016, they shamelessly cheated Sanders. In 2016, the person who was supposedly his ideological duplicate doesn't come out to support him and then lies about it continuously. After that, the Democratic Party goes with this notion that there was no cheating, there was only an appearance of impropriety, and gaslighted for the entire year, even up to the point of the Democratic Convention and after, pretending that there was no cheating, there's nothing to see here, folks, we're united. How did it make you feel when they were shamelessly lying to you constantly? Even after Donna Brazil's letter is exposed to the public and everybody can read it for their own eyes. And Tom Perez was still look into the mirror or look into a camera with a mic in front of him and say there was only an appearance of impropriety. They lied. They cheated and then they lied. And this person was right alongside him all along the way. How does that make you feel? The same party that went into court and said we can lie and we can steal and we can cheat because ultimately we are a corporation and we don't have to be fair and impartial in this particular process, nor can you do anything about the fact that we don't have to be fair and impartial in this process. We can choose in a smoke-filled room a candidate if that's what we want to do. That was the argument they made in court, literally the argument they made in court. And the person who's under the thumb of that particular party and who wants the support of that party is Elizabeth Warren. And if Clinton and Warren are working in a back channel just like they were working in a back channel back in 2013, Warren is going to get it. What does that make you think of Warren? I guess the point I'm getting to you is one person is not under the thumb of the party in this way. One person, for the most part, is not even considered a Democrat. His objectives in this is not necessarily to toe a particular party line at all. His objectives is, I want all of these transformational plans, and if I get into office, this is going to be the new meaning of what it means to be a Democrat. And that is an existential threat to the neoliberal wing of the Democratic Party, which is essentially the established party. One person wants to change it. The other person doesn't. The other person doesn't. Elizabeth Warren team doesn't want to talk about Hillary Clinton, but that doesn't mean the 2020 presidential candidate isn't talking with her 2016 party nominee. The two women have kept the line of communication open since the Massachusetts senator decided to run for president. The only conversation around the time Warren's launch has been previously reported, according to several people familiar with the discussions who spoke to NBC on a condition of anonymity because of political sensitivity of the private interactions. I love this. We're back to the public and the private positions. I don't trust Warren. Her support in the party like this makes me trust her less. Her prior support for Clinton, despite the fact that Sanders was supposed to be the closest one, makes me trust her less. The gimmick of trying to get out of the primaries makes me trust her less. Meaning this notion of, I'm not going to accept money in the primaries, but I will accept it once I get out of it. And for some reason, money influences behavior in the primary, but for whatever reason, she believes that it doesn't once you get out of the primary. And that for some reason, you should give her a pass on it once she gets out of the primary, but in the primary. It's not that she wants you to give her a pass. Ultimately, what she knows is you have nowhere else to go. This is the basic third way argument. You have nowhere else to go. So yeah, you didn't want a candidate who's accepting big money, but now that you got a candidate who's accepting big money, the alternative is Trump, so what do you care about most? It's a gimmick. Do you trust the Democratic Party? Is this indeed the party that said they can cheat and lie in an election? Yeah, it is. And is this the party that Warren has firmly entrenched with? And I think if you look at Warren, I think the answer is yes. There's some stuff that she wants to do that's to the left. I do believe that she'll punch a banker in the throat if she gets the opportunity. But the reality of it is, when you look back at her record, for the most part, she is firmly entrenched with what the party wants, just a tick to the left. But the catch is, she is entrenched with the party. This is a party that, for the most part, is corporate controlled, and if we're being honest, lacking cash and bleeding cash. She is an echo, and I have no reason to support the echo that is firmly entrenched within the party and that is working hard to get party support, which means what are the deals that you need to make in order to get the particular party support. And if you're working with Clinton, Clinton is probably going to deliver that party support because, again, Warren backed Clinton when she needed it. So Clinton is going to back Warren now, just out of this notion of loyalty. That's true. That's just true. The issue is superdelegates. If Warren can split the vote, which she probably could, and you get this thing where Biden wins some states, Sanders wins some states, maybe Warren wins some states and some delegates, you may get a split vote, in which case the question becomes, who is the Democratic Party going to put in that office? I've said months ago that I don't think their choice is Biden. I think their choice is Warren. I think Warren gets you a tick to the left, and I think they believe that they can sell Warren to lefties. Hence, the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King dilemma. Of course you'll take X, or of course you'll take King because Malcolm X terrifies you. It's the same thing between Warren and Clinton. Under normal circumstances, no. But under these circumstances, with somebody like Sanders running, she is their choice. Warren has a back channel to Clinton, and they've been talking and working in tandem. Rest on that. Rest on that. How does that make you feel? Does that feel good? Does that feel good? Oh, let that sink in. Let that sink in. Donald Smead, can I add more than 50 char text to Super Chat? Well, Donald, just put out your whatever you want to say. I'll get to you. Giovanna Lavana, get well soon, Aisha. Jamal, I'm a little older than Trek, but I cannot recall a time before Trek. It was part of my life and my family since before I can remember. Every kid in my neighborhood watched my whole family. Me too. Like, I remember being a kid and seeing the cable man at home when I'm walking home from school and with my backpack hauling ass to get home because I wanted to see Kirk and Star Trek. And if the cable people were coming to the house and adding cable. That would mean that I would now have access to view that content. That's how much of a fan I was for Star Trek, even at like 8 years old or 6 years old. So yes, Giovanna Lavana, my whole family watched it. Kids today just don't see important how the original series was. It changed society, encouraged hope and desire for social progress. And I saw Aisha make the walking hand sign last week. Yeah, the Vulcan hand sign. They don't know. Like, this is that thing of where somebody said, yeah, man, Kanye West really put George McCarthy, or really put McCartney on the map. And it's like, what? Do you know who that is and how ridiculous that sign is? Or what you just said was? It changed society in real terms. Think about your society and where your society was in the 60s or 70s. And you have a series that blows away all of this notion of prejudice, racist, all of that stuff out the window. Even class relations out the window. There is nothing like that in your society. And you're putting this in the context of space and human evolution. And this is what we can be as people. This is what we can be. And they hold that up and say, bam, we're going to put that on the airwaves. And people watched and people said, yeah, that would be amazing if we could be that way. People orient around content, media, information, news. It's not innocuous. It has a consequence one way or the other, regardless of what it is. Be it music, be it art, be it video, it has impact. Especially for something like this when it resonates. And Star Trek, the original series, resonated. I would even argue the next generation and the series that come after that, same thing. Vulcan hand sign, yeah. Beef-o. Here's what I think the DNC wants to happen. Warren to get the nomination, lose to Trump so the DNC can progressive ideology is fringe. In game. I've argued that too, Benfo. I don't know if they want to lose to Trump, but I would wager that, let's be honest. We, meaning us, the 99%, or let's say the 95%, are not in the same class as many of the people who are in the Democratic establishment. We're out of class, meaning our class is different. The Democratic Party is arguing for a quote-unquote compassionate capitalism, whereas the Republican Party just want helter-skelter capitalism. And these are the two extremes that we have in the United States. Essentially, one that says we want to rape, and the other one says we want to rape, but we want to at the very least touch their hair. If Trump wins, the established party doesn't hurt. It doesn't really matter. I mean, ultimately, from the standpoint of their class, they'll get more tax cuts, they'll get all of these benefits and everything else. They are not harmed by a loss in the sense of the election. They're harmed only in the sense of getting what they want in a political sense or political will. But in real materialistic terms, not so much. If you run and you have a Warren and Warren wins, Warren is not going to fundamentally change the system. She's only going to add tax cuts and those type of things. It's just going to be moderation in order for people to get back happy with capitalism again. Ultimately, that's the goal. The Democratic Party may be okay with that since it doesn't fundamentally change anything. And in the same way you had the New Deal politics where they could claw back their gains, whatever Elizabeth Warren passed will be clawed back within the next Republican administration. And for that matter, even the next Democratic administration that is more to the right. If Warren loses, the Democratic Party does not hurt from the standpoint of an established order. Ultimately, all sorts of helter-skelter things are going to take place when Donald Trump gets his next 4 years that they're going to scream as a mandate. And there may be a backlash against that would allow the Democrats to get back in power. Any Democrat. Because the argument that Democrats are going to make is, see, we told you it was the Russians. And we told you that you couldn't go this far to the left. And you went this far to the left and she lost. And so, you guys, we were right when we told you that the only thing that will win is our right-wing candidates. If Warren lost, you don't believe that will be the argument. That will entirely be the argument. And again, Nancy Pelosi doesn't hurt in a situation where Trump wins. She only hurts in the sense that she loses power in the House. She will still maintain and have $100 million. Rachel Maddow, her show will continue to get awesome ratings if Trump is in that White House. Not so much that I think she wants Trump in the White House, but she will not necessarily be materially harmed by such. I hope you get my point. There's a difference in those things in regards to what we want that has real material benefits. Meaning if Sanders gets rid of college debt, that is a real material benefit for a large number of people within the society itself, especially between 18 and 40. If Sanders deals with Medicare for all, again, that is a massive material benefit for the bottom segment of the population. If Warren loses, those things don't get passed. By the same token, those things wouldn't get passed if Warren got in office anyway, because I don't even know how serious she is about getting those things passed. They can turn around and point and say she just went too far to the left. That's why she lost. And you need somebody like a Clinton or an Obama that can make that win. It is vitally important that the person who fights that race is Sanders. And look, it's not that Sanders will win lock, stock, or that it's a guarantee. But I don't necessarily want somebody who's weak in regards to some of the right-wing areas that she would have to run in and win. And I want somebody who is an honest arbiter of what is taking place. And the fact that you have these trust issues with Warren are going to eat her alive. Warren cannot be trusted. Warren cannot be trusted. This party lied to you the entire time, and even now doesn't own up to the fact that they cheated the guy. You can read it, and they don't own up to the fact that they cheated the guy. And her being firmly under the thumb of this party, and you honestly believe that she is going to get some level of change. Warren is going to take all sorts of cash when she gets out of this primary. She's going to be every other candidate. Why do you believe you're going to get something different by having the exact same thing that has always been there? She has a better gimmick in regards to, I'm not going to take cash because cash hurts me in the primaries, but once I'm out, you people have nowhere else to go. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. She can't be trusted. Pushing for reparations, and nobody even knows what reparations is. She was just using it to attack Sanders because she knows some people like the buzzword of reparations. And again, Standing Rock is a big, big deal. The woman who self-identified as a Native American, who I strongly believe to get benefits from the standpoint of school, whether she got those benefits or not, what was in her head at the time that she was self-identifying, did not stand up to the Native Americans as they were getting their arms blown off. Not supporting Sanders, and then continuously lying about it. And again, I make the point that in a primary that was rigged, that Warren herself said was rigged, but then the thumb of the party gets on her, in which case she changes her mind and comes back like a day or so later, it wasn't rigged. That should give you qualms about a person who's under the thumb of a party that has said we can cheat and steal in court. It should give you concern. Why do you want the echo when the real thing is in the race? Robert, Warren is against public ownership of energy. Yes, she is. Sanders is for that. And by the way, I am for that. I even said it before I even heard Sanders say it. Giovanna Lavina. The Democratic Party is not centrist. Centrism is an economic term. The party establishment embraced neoliberalism, an extreme right econ view. Pretending to be, or even really being socially liberal, would not make them centrist. Oh, I see. Yeah, but that's a technical definition. And when people talk politics, oftentimes they're not talking technical definitions. Like when somebody said they're a socialist. Okay, what does it mean? There are 1,000 definitions. From the standpoint of centrists, when they're talking about it in a political sense, they're talking about it only in the sense of the extremes. You have one side that is Joe Manchin, and the other side is Bernie Sanders. Or Elizabeth Warren, because Bernie Sanders is not considered a Democrat. And the center point between those two things. Now, I think this is a weird way of framing it, but that's the way they look at it. In which case, that's what they're talking about in the sense of centrism. But you're all right. They accepted neoliberalism. I mean, that's their philosophy of sorts. This notion that markets, for the most part, can handle it all. And government is only there to assist markets. Now, my aspect of this is people matter more than profits. And I will say that this utopian idea of Obamacare has fallen apart. Trump had a shittier version of Obamacare. And now the other guy comes in and says, how about we just make healthcare about healthcare and not deal with these insurance companies trying to make massive amounts of profit. And let's work on behalf of people as opposed to profits and have government work on tandem of people. Well, that blows away any notion of what the Democratic Party stands for or represents. Sanders is a sea change. He's something else. And they look at this as a clear and present threat and a danger to what the order of the Democratic Party currently is. That's what this really boils down to. The corporate wing of the party would accept a Warren if it only to stop Sanders from getting in office. It's not so much that they think Warren's populism and all this other stuff is awesome. It's more so they look at this as this is the bet. This is the bargain that they need to make in order to retain power. Knowing that once Warren is out, or even while she's in, she will be a controllable and shapeable factor from the standpoint of military politics and even to some degree of domestic politics. Sanders is not. Warren is the person to stop Sanders. which is why Clinton thinks she's awesome. That picture should be emblazoned in your mind. If you didn't like what took place in 2016, if you didn't like Warren, supposedly ideologically twin to Sanders, not supporting Sanders, if you didn't like her continuously lying about it, if you didn't like her not coming out for Standing Rock and coming out for your priorities, then why would you support hers? It's a basic question. And if you're bothered that the Democratic Party say that they can pick somebody in the smoke-filled room and cheat and never own up to the fact that they cheated Sanders, and this person is in line with lockstep with the Democratic Party and has garnered massive amounts of support from the creatures within that party, including Clinton herself, and recognizes that this looks bad. And just like this notion of, I'm not going to take money now, but I am going to take it in the primaries where you guys have nothing, that you can do about it after we get out. She wants to keep this a secret also. She wants to keep it a secret also. I don't trust Warren. Neither should you. Just saying.